Yesterday, in an email, a friend remarked that another friend had said and complained, "Pat never answers my questions." And it reminded me of that little anecdote of Mullah Nasruddin when a friend asked him, "Mullah, why is it you always answer a question with a question?" And the Mullah said, "Do I?" Zen master Hakuin was prostrating with a number of other monks in front of an image of the Buddha, when all of a sudden he had the urge to clear the phlegm from his throat. So he spat at the feet of the Buddha. Immediately the monks around him berated him and scolded him and even beat him. "How could you be so disrespectful?" And Hakuin turned to them and said calmly, "Show me where the Buddha is not, so that I have the right place to expectorate." There was a man in fact it was the mullah who was hired as the cook for a certain grandee. And the grandee instructed the mullah to go to the market and buy food to provide a delicious and luxurious meal for the guests he was to invite. So when all the guests were gathered, Mullah Nasruddin came out and handed to the guests a great plate of sheep's hearts. Now everyone was disgusted, and the host said, How can you give this food to my guest when I asked for something delicious and luxurious?" And the mullah said, "Well, what could be more delicious and luxurious than a heart that is capable of compassion and love and joy?" "Go back to the kitchen," said the grandee, "and provide us with something decadent." So the mullah went out to the kitchen, and an hour or so passed while the guests all fidgeted because they were all hungry. And out came the mullah again with a large platter of sheep's hearts. The grandee said, "What do you mean by this?" And the mullah said, "Well, what could be more decadent than a self-seeking and selfish heart?" Then there's a story about a Taoist physician who said that he could cure any illness. So a man called Lung Shu said to him, "I have this ailment, and if you can cure it for me, I will consider you the greatest physician in the land." And the physician said, "Well, tell me, what is your ailment?" And Lung Shu said, "Well, first of all, I don't care what people talk about me anymore. I have no thought about what is good or what is bad. I have no aim to be famous. I have no need for knowledge. In fact, I'm in that place where I can't even take care of my family or have any aspirations for success or a successful career. Oh, said the physician. Well, let me see. So he had Long Shu stand in front of the sun, and he examined him very carefully. And he said, ah, yes, I can see that your heart is quite empty. In fact, you're almost a sage. 6 cavities of your heart are quite clear, but there is one that is still blocked. But it seems that I may not have the cure for your ailment, because you still believe that enlightenment is something to be attained, something to be achieved. Enlightenment is not what it seems. Could these little stories have relevance to what was asked, knowing that the seat of divine science is in our mind, the seat of divine physics is in our heart, and the question has been asked, where and what is the seat of divine alchemy? So the question is asked of you now. When somebody asks you who you are, to where do you point? Before, if someone asked us who we are, we wouldn't point to our head and say, I'm Joe Blow. We'd point to our heart and say, I'm Joe Blow. This or that. But in the place where you find yourself now, where would you point if somebody asked you who you are? If it's not here, although we know divine science is here, the explorations, the inquiries, divine physics, in the heart, feelings, the divine alchemy. Where would you point? Someone asks you now, who are you? Where will you point? Where and what is this seat of divine alchemy?